Hey, shalom, shalom, shalom. Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, call hello Yahweh, Shem Yahushua, Shem Karpadash, double honors once again throughout and or due to the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone who continue to push this truth. Alright, this is Nama of the DC camp. Also, salutations go out to the Akim all across the four corners who are preaching this word, all honesty and sincerity, trying to wake up the remaining, hopefully elect. Alright, rawstory.com. As I said, I'm Mom from the DC camp. It says federal court. It says Mississippi's Jim Crow era voting law is steep in racism, but they can still use it. Just to go and show you, first of all, you never trust this devil, and if you expect him to change, well, hey, the joke's on you. Alright. Once again, highlighting the fact that you ever wonder why in the scriptures where it says the so-called white man, the nation of Edom, is going to be shown no mercy. That's James 2 and 13. Now you know why. All right, and even in the Zondervan Bible Dictionary, when it comes to Edom, this is why they're trying so hard to distance themselves. If you've ever noticed, you'll find all kinds of information on shit that you never even knew existed. But when it comes to the nation of Edom, all of a sudden nobody knows who and where they are. That's because they are them. You have to, when you read in the scriptures, you become acquainted with certain characteristics of certain nations or people, and of course the description fits them to a T, dead on, spot on. But yet they'll tell you that the Edomites are done away with. They were all killed off in Maccabees, and that's just not true. Well, Ecclesiastes 4 and 16 destroys that all day, every day. Let's go ahead and get that. Hold on. This is Ecclesiastes, let's see, 4 and 16. And it tells us, there is no end of all the people, even of all that have been before them. They also that come after shall not rejoice in him. Surely this also is vanity and vexation of spirit. Alright, so these people, sad to say, but it's a fact, yes, Edom is still, I've got a book here, Rome, Empire of the Edomites, by a gentleman by the last name of Beeson, 1853. So are the Romans extinct? No. Are the people that took over Greece, descendants of Philip of Macedon, Alexander the Greek's father, are they extinct? I think not. So all these excuses, all right, they don't add up. All right, this man realizes that everybody's caught on as to who he really is, his biblical nationality. All right, and for us as Israelites, it becomes more apparent that we should have always followed Deuteronomy 23 and 7. All right, which is to abhor him, meaning when we're going to abhor, let's get the biblical. But of course, we being under the curses, one of those curses says, I believe Deuteronomy 28:40, we have to go to this piece of shit for all things. All right, that's, when you think about it, it's a fitting punishment. This is Deuteronomy 23 and 7 says, thou shalt not abhor an Edomite, when that's supposed to be a Syrian. You gotta understand the family tree of the Israelites. But someone put Edomite. For he is thy brother, thou shalt not abhor an Egyptian, because thou wast a stranger in his land. So let's go and see what abhor means in this, but I'm pretty sure, I think I did this before, I'm pretty sure I did, I had to go outside of the, let's see, to abhor, detested, to loathe, regard as an abomination, because they are. Let's see. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty plain. And I've always stated that, the shit that they do to us, play these little mind games, like when walking down the street, they take their purse and move it to one side when they see us coming. Well, we're the ones that's supposed to be doing that. Take our children. After all, they stole everything from us. Think about it. All right. Again, going to that abhor. In other words, what's that old saying? You serve your enemy with a long-handled spoon, meaning you have to do and conduct business with them, because of the situation we're in, but you don't have to be rubbing elbows, being all try to be buddy with them. And that's unfortunately what a lot of Jake do, all right? And we can be here all day talking about the reasons for that, but let's continue on. And it says, according to the Mississippi Free Press, the traditionally right-wing U.S. Appeals Court for the Fifth Circuit has upheld an 1890 voting law in Mississippi that was explicitly designed to make it easy to strip black people of their voting rights for life. Even as the court admitted that was the original purpose of the law. And even when you see this, you have to draw the distinction, unlike so many of our so-called educated people amongst us do. We're so quick to welcome any and all people and bring them amongst us when they had nothing, when they have, I should say, nothing in common with what we went through. The latest push in the last few years has been this LGBTQ bullshit. And if you've ever noticed, everybody comes and uses us as a springboard for their own bullshit. And once they acquire it, and they do, guess who gets stepped on? All right? Exactly. Everybody comes over here, and this is what this man, this so-called white man, these Edomites have done. I did a video, I guess it's been a couple of months now, on the Moabites that lived in the South, given the history of what happened to them with the railroads and everything. But even with that, they are encouraged to keep the status quo when it comes to us. They'll have their businesses and everything. I'm talking about like in places, the deep South. And they're encouraged, like I said, by the so-called white man, the Edomite, to maintain their status, and they enjoy their whatever benefits they get. And guess who's still left holding the proverbial bag? There you are, you guessed it. So all this trying to, well, we have to realize that our situation is different and it's separate and unique. All right, and why we're out here advocating for all these other minorities, and we still get left, on the outside looking in. It's fucked up. All right, and then you got people like Jesse fucking Jackson and all these, these MLK motherfuckers. And even MLK, before he died, he started to change. People don't talk about that, But no, they want to push this, they want to bring this shit up, and that's their favorite, I'm talking about so-called white people. They always liked it because what? He didn't, well, before then, and there's pictures of him with Jacob Rothschild. It's like this motherfucker too, like he won't die. I believe he's the character that Mr. Burns, he's the actual real life person that the character Mr. Burns in The Simpsons was based on. It's like this motherfucker just won't die. Just like his brother had like 7 heart transplants and shit. But we all know that they're juiced in more ways than one. These are the elite banking families of the world. They're the actual ones that run this planet, on the left-hand side. All right, so it says, continuing on, the court's conservative majority admitted that the Jim Crow law was steeped in racism, but said the state had made enough changes in the 132 years since to override its white supremacist taint. How is that? Wait a minute. So they're saying that in the 132 years with affirmative action and all this shit that's supposed to overcome this law that's on the books, which they can resort to at any time. See, they always leave themselves, well, something like a back door, all right? And they're telling you that in your face right here, fuck you. We're gonna do what we want when we want, all right? It says a 2018 analysis found that the law still disproportionately disenfranchises, guess who? Jake, compared to their people. Of course. What do you expect? You should expect nothing less from these pieces of shit, right? These devils. Notice I said should. A lot of our people don't. They still under this false notion that it's going to get better. And these are the people amongst us that, yeah, we gotta, you know, at the very least, disassociate from. You know, they're gonna get theirs in the end. Don't worry about that. We should worry about our relationship with Yahweh Shem Shah and what we can do to get ourselves right. All right. The 1890 provision at issue is Section 241 of the Mississippi Constitution, which originally permanently disenfranchised people who committed the following crimes. Now listen very closely: bribery, burglary, theft, arson, obtaining money or goods under false pretense, okay? Perjury, forgery, embezzlement, and bigamy. Notice anything strange about those? It says these are all crimes that were disproportionately, or in some cases almost exclusively, used to prosecute Jake, many of whom hadn't actually done anything wrong. In their effort to only include crimes they believed black people were most likely to commit, the white supremacist drafters of the 1890 Constitution did not originally include murder and rape as disenfranchising crimes. Why? Because you got to understand what was going on at the time with Jim Crow, with the Klan, which only had been, at this point, active for less than 20 years. All right. So why put something on the books that could potentially be used to prosecute you? There's a lot of rape and a lot of murder going on with lynching. See how these devils are? Continuing on, it says, as the report noted, the Mississippi legislature adopted race-neutral language in the law, something that, contrary to popular belief, a lot of Jim Crow laws of the era did. But the drafters of the law made clear in speeches what the law was for. Mississippi Speaker of the House, James Vardaman, oh my goodness, years and years and years ago, there's a book, if you can get it, I recommend it. It's called The Great Mississippi Flood of 1927 and How It Changed America. The guy that wrote it, his last name was Barry, B-A-R-R-Y, okay? He had a home in Houston and here in D.C. I don't even know if he's still alive. I think the book came out in 98, something like that. I'll just say toward the end of the 90s. Very good book. All right, it gave you a history of that area around Mississippi, southeastern Arkansas, Louisiana, all that area there. And I wouldn't have known about it, but what happened that summer here in D.C., there was a storyteller from Mississippi. He was like 95 years old at the time. So he was born at the turn of the last century, and he was telling how of the things that went on during that flood, and how, in his words, people got along, they worked together. And a reporter here in the district that worked for the Washington Post was like, "No, that's some bullshit." I believe his name was Courtney Malloy. I think he's still with the Post. But he said, no, that's bullshit. Knowing what, and anybody with any common sense would have said the same thing. He said, no. So he investigated, and come to find out, yeah, it was bullshit, because what they had done during that time, you had places. Now, when you read I believe it's the foreword of that book, I'm trying to remember. I think it said it covered when the Mississippi overflooded because there was, um, in a 24-hour span, it rained. What was it? Anyway, as a consequence, it rained so much and so hard that in some places you had an area that was flooded that combined, what was it, states of Rhode Island, was it Connecticut? You had places that were 20 and 30 feet deep in, floodwaters. When the Mississippi overflowed, because this was a few years after two engineers went at it, one for the Army Corps of Engineers, I believe his name was Eads, his last name was Eads, and he was in constant battle with some other engineer. And at least one of them's methods is still taught in engineering school to this day. But there's a lot of shit going on as far as race relations. And I even read, according to that book, that they had tried an experiment with Italy, meaning the Italian government. And they brought over Italians to work the fields in the southeast Arkansas and across the state line in Greenville, Mississippi, that area there. And the Italians started complaining because Jakes were killing themselves at such a rate. They were like, nah, we want to go back home. They went to complained to the consulate, their embassy. No, you got to take us up out of here. These niggas are crazy. In so many words. So yeah, there's a lot. If you ever get a chance to read that book, I recommend it. But this was during that era, and the guy here whose name is Vardaman, I remember from that book, he was an avowed racist. Let's look up that word, avowed. And they talked about him at length, the shit that he did to screw over our people. I believe it means openly declare. Yep, avowed, openly declared or publicly acknowledged, meaning everybody knew it, how he felt about our people. All right, yeah. So that bastard there, Vardaman, and he had a United States senator. I can't remember his name from that area down there. I believe it was Arkansas. I can't remember his name, but he would employ a lot of Jakes. Specifically of the male persuasion, and everybody had questions about that. But yeah, continuing on. It says, and here's what Vardaman said: there is no use to equivocate or lie about the matter. Mississippi's Constitutional Convention of 1890 was held for no other purpose than to eliminate the nigger from politics. Told you. Not the ignorant and vicious, as some of the apologists would have you believe, but the nigger. The Fifth Circuit argued that since the list of crimes was later updated, with burglary being taken out and murder and rape being added, there was no longer a racial intent in the list of crimes, and therefore it was not allowed, even though the state still firmly had a segregationist code at the time that list was amended. In a dissent, Judge James E. Graves Jr. cited Vardaman's admission about the purpose of the 1890 convention, noting that the so-called Great White Chief said the goal was to legislate against the racial peculiarities of the Negro, and that when that device fails, we will resort to something else. What do you think he was talking about? Graves, who was black and a native of Clinton, Mississippi, all right, joined the Fifth Circuit after former President Barack Obama appointed him in 2011. Man, it takes all, don't it? I mean, that's a whole nother issue. But here you have it. This is how they dealt with us and still do to this day. Nothing's changed. All right, you know, you throw things around, rearrange things, but the heart of it is still the same. The intent is still the same. All right, and that's why when we cite scriptures such as, you know, Isaiah, which I'm getting ready to get, this is why we have to get the fuck up out of here. More importantly, you should have the mindset to get the hell up out of here. This is Isaiah 51 and 14. The captive exile, which we are, hasteneth that he may be loosed, and that he should not die in the pit, nor that his bread should fail. Because as long as we hear these two things are going to happen, we will die in this fucking pit. Another word for pit is system, because it was designed expressly for us and how to deal with us. All right, and that our bread will constantly fail while we're here. That's one of the curses. In fact, both of them are. All right, you don't believe me? Let's get it. Deuteronomy 28. Let's see. Blessed shall be thy basket if we were to do these things, but under the curses, starting at 16. Cursed shalt thou be in the city, and cursed shalt thou be in the field. Cursed shall be thy basket and thy store. We will not miss to prosper here. But scroll on down. (33) The fruit of thy land and all thy labor shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up, and thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed always. All right. 37, thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations, whether the Most High Yahweh shall lead thee. Specifically, and especially here in America, nigger, coon, jigaboo, porch monkey, all right, and a lot more. Thou shalt, 38, thou shalt carry much seed out into the field, and shalt gather but little in, for the locust shall consume it. All right. Everybody benefits from our labor except us. That goes for 39 too. The stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high, thou shalt become very low. I touched briefly on that, talking about all these other nations, all right, that come in and they springboard off of our backs, off of us, all right, and they get recognized, and we don't. You ever wonder why they come out here and they prosper? That's it. That's a curse. That's verse 43. He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail. All these stores, and you got Elam, East Indian, and Koreans, and all these people that open up these businesses in our neighborhood, take our money. So what? Our money does not circulate within our community like everybody else's money. That's done on purpose. For those that you don't believe that this motherfucker still hates us, he brings others in. All right. Let's see. And these curses should be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. Now let's say about 48. Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemy, which the Most High shall send against thee, in hunger, and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck, until he have destroyed thee. All right. Goes 54 goes into why women are like they are against us. 56. All right. And on and on and on. These are these curses that are upon us. This is why we're subject to shit like this. But the beautiful thing is now we see that these curses are falling upon our enemy, as was prophesied in Deuteronomy chapter 30 verse 7 and Jeremiah 30 verse 16. All that devoured us, they shall be devoured. And it's starting to happen. Prophecies are jumping off the pages. Hey, so with that, of course, it's coming from rawstory.com via Smart News. Once again, federal court says Mississippi's Jim Crow era voting law is steeped in racism, but they can still use it because we don't give a fuck. It's niggers. So with that, I hope whoever views this, of course, is edified. That's what we aim to do here at Great Millstone. Filter all this through scriptures, and because of that, you should know what time you're in right now. That time is very short. All right, if you're paying attention to what's going on around the world, not just your hood, you would know this. Hey, so with that, hey, shalom.